you have the song leads to the fans kind of dictate what type of products and what type of things they want, and every single artist is different, and the relationship with their fan is very intimate and unique. And you have to not look at them as fans in a generalization. You have to look at it's a relationship, and knowing that relationship is going to allow you to open all those other doors on monetization.
Welcome to the Music Business Facts Podcast, where successful music industry experts share their industry secrets that will help you take your music career to the next level.
G'day ladies and gentlemen, Rodney Holt is my name, and a big welcome to my podcast, which I've called Music Business Facts. And I'm really glad that you've taken the time to hit play on my show, because as always, my mission in this podcast is to bring you the facts and the insights into how successful people play this game, which they call the music business. But before I get into today's show, in an attempt to monetize all this work I do, I am going to be thanking my affiliate sponsor, and my affiliate is Audible. So guys, if you're listening to me right now, then you already know how cool the audio format is, and audiobooks are just another excellent medium to learn whilst you're on the go. Right now, Audible has a really cool offer where if you sign up, you get a free audiobook. So it's a very cool offer indeed. And if you're interested in having a look at the amazing array of audiobooks that they have over at Audible, check out mbfbook.com. So that's mbfbook.com. That's my affiliate link. I do get a little kickback from there, so you will be supporting me if you go over and sign up there. And you can check out all the great books they have, and like I said, you'll get a free audiobook if you go over there today. So me personally, I don't dedicate much time to reading. I'm a bit lazy, but I do love learning, and audiobooks are a great way for me to learn whilst I'm on the go, usually in the car for me. And the latest book I'm listening to, guys, is called Pitch Anything by Oren Klaff. It's another killer book. And again, I'm advising you to go over and check out mbfbook.com and check out your free book from Audible. Okay, so my guest today is Mr. Eddie Meehan. And people, what a great and interesting guest Eddie was. Eddie runs a company called Wonderful Union, and Wonderful Union are a multi-tiered agency who handle VIP ticketing initiatives and fan clubs and meet and greets and many more cool fan engagement ideas for some of the biggest names in the music industry. So we're talking about Taylor Swifts, the Justin Biebers, the Backstreet Boys and the Drakes of this world, just to name a few. But Wonderful Union also not only work with these titans of the industry, they're up for working with new artists on the rise as well. So go over and check out Eddie's company at wonderfulunion.com. Now, as you're about to hear, Eddie is a really cool, down-to-earth guy, but he's also a really smart and inspiring businessman. And I really did enjoy my conversation with Eddie, and I feel like I learned a ton of really cool stuff about the music business and monetization strategies and monetization methods, and also things that I'd already sort of known, I guess, was just really reinforced by speaking with Eddie. So, guys, there's a really cool amount of music business education takeaways in this episode, so listen up carefully. And speaking of takeaways, I have created an awesome free report based on my little interrogation interview with Eddie, and I've called it Eddie Meehan's Top 10 Music Business Tips for Success. So if you'd like that, it's available for free over at Eddie's show notes page at musicbusinessfacts.com. So feel free to go over there, guys, and grab that. All right, without further ado then, here's my great conversation with the big boss guy of Wonderful Union, Mr. Eddie Meehan. Guys, I really think you're going to love this one. Enjoy. Eddie, I don't know if you know, but I run a music business podcast called Music Business Facts, and I believe you're an old ex-metal guy. Is that true? I see you're wearing a Pink Floyd shirt today.
Pink Floyd shirt. I think I got a Deftones poster behind me. Yeah, that's my roots started with metal back in the 80s and 90s.
Yep, I think we're from the same shell there, Eddie, because I'm the same. Before I start, Eddie, I just like to always invite my guests to tell my listeners a little bit about themselves personally, and then if you could go in and tell us about your music business at Wonderful Union.
Yeah, so I grew up outside of Boston, moved to California, went to school out here, San Diego, moved up to San Francisco, worked in radio for a little bit. Always had a passion for music. Found an opportunity, and that's kind of where I started my business, and probably must have been around 97, 98. The internet was taking off, and I became obsessed with it. My original obsession was radio and broadcasting, and I wanted to play music, and that was always a dream job, was being in the radio business. And here in the United States, around 96, 97, Bill Clinton deregulated the FCC, which meant commercialization of radio, which that dream of going into the house and, working out of a house and playing records until 4 a.m. and educating people and learning new stuff, that kind of all went away. So then the internet came up, and it was about around 2000 where I started just finding a real, niche of, it's still like the Wild West, but even more so back then. And that's where I started my business. And we can kind of get into that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said a word there that I really love, and I think, and from what I've read about you, of obsession. So do you think that's one of the things you need to be successful in whatever you do? You've got to have that just driving, burning obsession for what you love?
100%. Like, a good example, I love food. I don't like to cook, I'd rather go out and get somebody else to make it for me, somebody who is obsessed about making food, and it always turns out great. Music has always been, playing in bands when I was younger, and being able to, I would go down to the Tower Records or the record store and, being 12, 13, 14, 15 and take my allowance and buy, every week, go buy a new album, and not only just go home and buy it and listen to it, but I would sit there and read all the notes, and then I would cross-reference the producers, and then this is crazy, but even to the point of where, you would know the different smell of the manufacturing of the records, like a different label has a different scent from a different factory, and, knowing the different pressing and knowing just, I don't know how I, attached to it so much, but I've always just wanted to be in the music business. And, luckily, like I was saying earlier, that went from playing music into wanting to work in radio to, the internet, and being able to find a place where, there's being able to find, there's a couple of things. One is, I started off building websites and going from that, still with that obsession, taking my music obsession and then the internet and the connectivity and the ability to create communities and it must have been 2002, 2003. We started building websites, and those were the big Flash websites. One of my former partners, and he had a company, and I came in, and we were responsible for all of those. And that was, at that point, it was really cool because people looked at it as new media, and they looked at it as something that wasn't, core. It wasn't really important because it was right before MySpace took off, and there were still record stores everywhere. Satellite radio hadn't taken off. Streaming on the internet wasn't where it is today. Mm-hmm. And, we were new. Mm-hmm. And that turned into, with the launch of MySpace and the everybody started going from dial-up internet to, DSL and cable and faster methods of connectivity. We were able to launched more and more of those Flash websites, and MySpace started creating this community thing. And one of my business partners had an idea. He's like, what if we made a platform where fans can interact with each other? And so we did, and took that and built it into a fan club model, which ultimately turned into, you have a fan club. That's great. Well, they want to buy tickets, so you have to have a ticketing system. So you build that, and if they're going to join a fan club, you need to have multiple tiers, and to get that, you have to have different types of goods. So you have fulfillment. Now you have, so you've got the website, and you've got fulfillment, you've got ticketing. You need customer support because you have to keep the fans happy and communicate to them. And all those elements came into place. And I was working with one of my clients, and back at this time, they still had given away all their meet and greets to, record labels and, radio station people. Mm-hmm. And, one of the managers was like, what if we sold these things? What if we actually took these meet and greets and we sold them? And it's like, well, that's crazy, but let's do it. And, it was extremely successful. Mm-hmm. And, and the same thing we did with everything else. You just kind of just hustle and figure out what works and what doesn't work. And not everything's been a success, but luckily a lot of it has. So.
Man,
it's cool.
Yeah, look, I really love that. And I got to say, Eddie, I get pitched every day to speak to people. And the truth is, quite often, someone will send me someone that I've never heard of before. And until, receiving contact from your crew, I hadn't heard of you. But when I read your bio, I got to be honest, man, I got really excited about what you do. So your company's called Wonderful Union, and your tagline is that you aim to bring your fans closer to you and build lasting memories in the process. So you touched on it just before. Do you want to tell us or tell the listeners a little bit about Wonderful Union and what kind of opportunities you provide for, I guess, both the artists trying to monetize their music business, but also for the fans to engage with those artists that they love and admire so much?
Yeah, so when we originally started, we were actually, just for the record, we're a company called Ground Control. And we changed the name about 3 years ago just for a bunch of fun reasons. But so Ground Control then turned into Wonderful Union. And so, the opportunities are still in the same area of what we've always done. It's always about the fan. And if you're, we're experts in creating digital content, and that means websites and video content and other components that always complement the recorded media. So, our business is still structured in the same way, where we do websites, we do fan clubs, we do commerce, online stores, and we do ticketing bundles, and also dabble in other areas that are, if we have a fan who want something that's unheard of and they want to pay for it, we can probably put it together for them.
Wow.
It's that area of, a very high touch service.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, it's all about just, creating a memorable experience, whether that's online, whether it's a customer acquisition, a purchase, or going to a concert and getting a meet and greet and a front row ticket and some merchandise. And that's really what the core. We're a fan engagement company, so
yeah,
anything that really engages with the fan. Right?
It's I find that personally really fascinating, because it's just something that I really love as a student of the music business, and I'm also doing a few little things where I'm starting to do that in my company as well. But I'm curious, Eddie, what are some of the craziest requests you've had from fans that have made you raise your eyes and go, shit, can I pull this off? Do any come to mind?
They're all a little different.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say crazy. Crazy is the same way. I'm obsessed. I guess I'm kind of crazy about the music business, and so fans get that same obsession about, or excitement about their favorite artists. And some of them are. A lot of it comes down to some people are willing to spend a lot of money.
Yep.
And I respect it, and it's everybody's got different means in life, but there are times where you see fans who you might be working for an artist, and maybe I'm in China and I'm in South America, I'll go to the Middle East, and then and I'll see these same fans, and they get to know you, and they're traveling with the artist, and they're spying your packages, and it's not even that it's so much crazy. It's just that it's crazy that you get to know these people, because they're like, you even working for the artist, it's like, well, this is expensive. I'm taking time off from focusing on my other clients. I'm with this one artist, and these people are giving up, lots of their time, and which is amazing, because it reminds me of, like, all the business that I'm in all goes back to, and I'm not like a huge fan, but I'm a fan of their business, like the Grateful Dead back in the 60s and 70s, and what they were able to create, like, with their own record labels and their own touring business, and seeing how their fans used to follow them around and still do to this day. But you see that with other artists, and that obsession and excitement and passion. I guess I shouldn't say obsession, I should say passion. I feel like that's something that's a little bit crazy. But I've seen people with tattoos, and people
Sure.
sleeping outside, and all that kind of stuff. I've seen a lot. Some of the stuff I don't want to mention on the record, but yeah, it's some crazy things.
Well, I've done obviously a little bit of research on you when I was putting this conversation together with you, and I read somewhere that you said, I think it was a Backstreet Boys fan spent $75,000 on fan engagement. Is that something you want to comment on? That's on the internet, so.
Oh, if it's on the internet, then it's got to be true.
Exactly.
There are fans who do spend, over a period of time, over a period of years. Because we get a lot of calls where, for that artist, or it could be for any of the other artists that we work with, you'll get a call in where there's two types of fans. There's the ones who are like they're going to go ahead and they're going to save up and they're going to and spend for this experience. And then there are the wealthy fans who are like, oh, I have $25,000. I want to go meet this artist. Can you set it up?
Yep.
It's like, well, normally that package is only $1,000, but this is what we can set up for you. So yeah, we do have actually quite a few of those type of clients who spend, an absurd amount of money.
Yeah.
But, as long, the main key is if you provide them, it's all about perception of value. And if you create something that is, create some sort of escapism or create some sort of a memory that they'll keep forever, like what's the value on that? And how do you, when these people are at home and listening in their cars and they've obsessed on every single release that you've done and they read all the articles and they watch all the shows you're on, and to put the fan into the room with that artist is something that's, and to have a moment with that person that has, it's your escapism from when you're at your job and when you're working out, and it's what drives you in a different level. I mean, you understand it. You're a music guy. Like that is something that it's hard to value, but yeah, 75, 125, there's different levels of money that people have spent with us over the years. And those people they have my phone number. If they ever need anything, it's definitely, they're a customer, very important one.
Yeah, and I really love that because prior to talking to you, what I've experienced is that someone like you offers the package to the fans, but you're telling me that the fans can come to you and almost create their own desires, and you can then go and try and mediate for them. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what, the supply and demand. So there's obviously the mainstream packages where, we might have a tour out where, we're supplying, 100 meet and greets a night and get some merchandise, et cetera. It's kind of the more cookie cutter, standardized. You sell it on Ticketmaster or Ticket Tech or whatever platform that we're transacting on or our own. But then you also have the fans who are like, listen, I've done this 25 times. What about something special? What can we do on top of this that is going to create, even a bigger memory and just something that they have to look forward to? Maybe it's in a month. Maybe it's a special cabin on a cruise. Maybe it's a flying with the artist, or maybe it's a dinner, where we bring in a chef and we set the whole thing up.
Yep.
Like those type of things are, we've done bowling parties. We've done, all kinds of stuff, going bowling with the artist for an hour and a half it's cool. And the artist likes it because it's, you're getting out of the house and you're doing an activity.
Yeah.
So yeah, if they have ideas and they want to, I can always position and present to, any artist or manager.
That's fantastic.
Seeing a lot more of that too. It's interesting.
I read a quote of yours on the internet again. It'd be good to see if you spell it or not. But you said apparently that some fans are so addicted to their artist, it's like a heroin addiction. And I really like that because I guess I've kind of experienced that. Not I've ever tried heroin, but that just absolute adoration for the artist where you would part with cash to spend time with them.
Yeah, and for the record, I've never tried heroin either. Just to put that out there. But what you like that addictive personality, and I have it as well. I mean, that's why I'm in this business. It's why I have that same feeling of like I get up every morning, go to work, and it is an addiction to a point of, because you do get what we're able to bring. And it's not a negative way, like what a drug like that would be, but like something that gives them a high, gives them a feeling, gives them. You see these people going through from A to from when they're in line before the artist comes in, when they come up and they start crying and they start shaking, and then afterwards, they're it's like this. You see this whole. It reminds me of like some kind of it's like a drug use. It's like it removes any concern or any real world issues, and it's like an escape that it replicates some sort of high. It's very interesting to see. So yeah, that's what I mean by that quote.
No, I totally get it. Hey, listen, Eddie, before I ask you this next question, I want to premise it by saying, I totally am on side with what you're doing. I think it's fantastic. I love it. But what do you say to some people that I imagine would say to you, hey, Eddie, you're really taking advantage of some of these people. In fact, you might even be exploiting them by offering these packages. What's your response to that criticism?
Which I understand. And there were years of as we were starting this company and going through, now we're in year 11, where a lot of, not even just critics of that, I guess mostly the criticism comes from the optics of greed and taking advantage of people. I used to get that from artists who would be like, that's, back in the day when these were given away, you would never hear of an artist trying to charge for this. And not to segue off, but one of my first, going back to metal, I remember being with one of my really good friends, Eric, and going to go see Slayer and Public Enemy and Anthrax back in 1991, and sitting outside of the venue waiting for our parents to pick us up. And the band comes out, the tour manager or someone, I guess, comes out and goes, "Okay, guys, come on." And we're like, whoa, what's going on here? And that was, they just would do that all the time, bring fans on the bus and they'd sign some stuff. And, I still have the picture I got signed from Slayer in my home office. And that was free. And I understand that. And that's how it used to be. And so there was a period of time where a lot of artists would give me a hard time, be like, that's cheesy, it's corny. And I spent years trying to combat that and be like, listen, you don't have to charge $1,000 or $5,000. You can charge $150. Maybe the ticket is $75. Maybe we throw another $75 on it, and or whatever the value comes into. And these fans want it, and there's a supply and demand, and people seem to, as long as they're always getting what they perceive as a value, and you're making these dreams come true. A lot of times, what's the chance that the band would come out and pull you on the bus and do a meet and greet? Like, that's just so rare. Metallica, when I was a kid, was another one of those things where it was like, I must have met them 4 times, but that's me being a 14-year-old boy obsessed and just kind of like, who has that time? A lot of people don't. And so, if people didn't want it, then I wouldn't be in business. And taking advantage of the fans, I don't feel that, if they don't, you're right. It's like, is it the tobacco industry where you're supplying and people want it? But it's not. I think that most of the fans that do it once or twice. They have an amazing time and they'll come back and do it again. And it's like, when you fly a lot, say the business traveler, and if you might, not a business traveler, you don't mind economy. You sit in the middle seat in the back. Who cares? You're only doing it once or twice a year. But if you're traveling every other day, you probably are going to upgrade yourself to the lounge access. You're probably going to want to do business class if you can get the upgrades, because you want a more of a experience. And that's the same thing. These fans, they get special entry into the venue. They're there early. They get to get up front. They get, special bathrooms and snacks and drinks, and then they get a meet and greet and a special maybe acoustic performance. These things are all value added.
Sure.
So, as long as you're not – the number one thing is, if you rip people off, they're not going to come back. You won't be in business for long. So as long as you fight with the artist, for the artist, making sure that there's always a value of what you're offering, I think you're in a good spot. So I'd be willing to debate anybody on that topic. That's not, that'd be a fun debate.
Yeah. Well, look, like I said, you don't have to convince me. It's something that I believe in, because I think also it's a bit of a necessity. I don't know if do you know the Swedish band Opeth?
Yes, of course.
Yes, so
I do. Not a bad.
I've spoken to Mikhail, the lead singer, a couple of times, and we talked about this exact subject. And he sort of said, "I feel really bad about this. I'd rather just sit down and have a beer with my fans and do that." But his manager, a friend of mine, Andy Farrow, a very good businessman, he explained to him that because a lot of your traditional income streams are disappearing. Sometimes doing these things, exactly what you said, you're giving these fans who want to have that closer access to you the opportunity to do so. But B, also in some instances, not necessarily for Opeth, but for some of his other bands, the meet and greet packages actually make the tour either break even or become profitable. So, it's become a business necessity in some instances.
Oh, a lot of instances. I mean, I have artists who, it allows them to bring in bigger production. It brings to the bottom line of the tour, and adding a second bus so not everybody's cramped on one bus. Lots of things that come into play that back in the day you would have album sales. You would have
exactly.
Back in the day, the whole reason you would do a tour was to promote the album. Nobody's making money on recorded music anymore. Very few people.
Yeah.
So this is another, in the merchandise, like how many T-shirts can you sell? Like it's definitely a very important part of a lot of artists' business, and I think it will continue to grow, whether it's through ticket bundles, VIP packages, other special fan engagements, and experiences outside of the touring world, whether that's destination events and you could have you could even have sit down and have a beer with your fan. Like you can still do that, but there has to be a business side of it as well.
Yep, I completely agree. And speaking of artists, wow, looking at the artists that you've worked with, I mean, it's just off the Richter scale. For anyone who hasn't heard of you and your company, guys, Eddie's worked with artists like Justin Timberlake, Taylor Swift, Justin Bieber, Drake, Miley Cyrus, Fleetwood Mac, Elvis Costello, Nicki Minaj, and that's just the start. So I guess my question is, how did you go from being this web development company to being the intermediate for all these monumental superstars?
Doing a good job. Luckily and I have an amazing team of people that work with me. Mm-hmm. And we started with one artist, and that went to 2, which went to 4 and 6. And you start we were luckily really early on in this space, especially with the VIP area. Fan clubs, those come and go. And we still do quite a bit of those. Mm-hmm. It's funny, back when I started the business, there were quite a few different companies out there doing it, that are no longer, most of them have been acquired and, rolled into, Live Nation or rolled into Ticketmaster or whoever. Yep. And at that point, they haven't really focus on this business so much. It really comes down to just doing a good job and being able to, the music business is such a small business. And, if you do a good job for, the Eagles for Irving, you're going to get Fleetwood Mac and you're going to get all the other clients. And it makes everybody's life easy when they know the manager can call one of my client services people and be like, hey, it's Saturday. We have an announcement going up tomorrow. We just found out. Because in this space, when you're working with music artists, there's no Monday through Friday. There's no 9 to 5. They're always on. They're performing on the weekends. And just having that response time and having a team around me that understands that whatever it takes, it's not a state job where it's like, oh, I'm off, we're living that with them and trying to create a little bit of a relationship and understanding where each artist is unique, because the Eagles are not the same as Justin Timberlake, which Justin Timberlake is not the same as, Elvis Costello. It's all different, and understanding and respecting and, earning the trust. And after a few years, everybody gets to know you, and it's a small business, luckily.
No, that's cool. I guess what I was trying to squeeze out of you is that your first couple of clients were pretty big artists, and you said, I read you said you had a bit of a lucky break, and I think that was with Backstreet Boys, and who was the other one? I've got it written here somewhere.
I had Papa Roach, Backstreet Boys, Paul Oakenfold was an early one, T-Pain, around that time. And, we had been doing websites before that.
Yep.
So just doing the straight websites, they already trusted us on the creative because we had been doing amazing projects and the team, and having Backstreet go, hey, you want to run the fan club? It's like, all right, we'll give it a shot, and it worked, and having them sell 130 million records and
amazing,
have a massive fan base, it made it easy to show, here's an example of a success story, and this is. Yeah, we know you're a totally different type of artist, but this will work as well if you try A, B, and C.
Yep, cool. I guess that was a lucky break for you then, would you say? I've read that's what you said. You said you ran you had a
100%.
Yeah.
And they're still a very active client of mine. I'm very involved with
awesome.
all their stuff. So,
awesome. Yeah. My question to you, Eddie, is I often talk about luck because people say in the music business, luck is a component of becoming successful in whatever you do. Just what's your opinion on luck? What's your views on luck? Are you one of these people that think you make your own luck?
I think I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
Very lucky. Luck is extremely important. People skills, just having friends, even, one thing I've noticed over time is the people who, I don't know, the people that suck kind of go away.
Okay.
The people who aren't really, you know what I mean?
Years
ago, there were, all these people who were, maybe you have a little bit of success and, your head gets big, or you become difficult, or you become bigger than you think you are. Nobody wants to work with you. And what I've learned is over time with the music business, the artists come and go sometimes. Fads come and go. And it's almost like a conveyor belt. And if we can all work together with a great team of people that we're used to working with and we know that we can trust, your business will continue to thrive. And that's just kind of like, it's a lot of luck, but it's also good people. And like my team, staff that I have are, they're phenomenal.
Yeah.
So,
well, one thing I would say that I've discovered about you is that you obviously work your ass off. I've read about, doing all this stuff. You've talked about it, lack of sleep, working your butt off. That's one part, I think, of the luck equation. The harder you work, the luckier you get. I truly believe that. The other thing you touched on was the importance of networks in any business, and particularly the music industry. Eddie, a lot of my listeners to my show, they're just starting out, or they're trying to get up and rolling. And I wanted to ask you, have you got any advice or strategies on how to network in the business?
Networking is, obviously it's getting into the right circles, being at the right places, being around the talented people and not the bullshit artists, the people who just kind of talk a lot. Yeah. And my ability to network, the people I've met over the years is like, the good people, going back to what I just said before with the BS people, like keeping the good people around you and being good to those people. Cause it's like, what can I do for you? Okay. And then, there's always, I can't tell you how many times I've done, a comp website for a baby artist to get the bigger artist, or to, sit down and listen and talk with somebody. And it's not, you can't focus on the money. You have to focus on the project, and you have to focus on the job that you're doing. And then if you do a good job and everybody's happy, then you get paid, as long as, you don't want to be a sucker. But, networking is, that's a big part of what I do, is just being able to manage your relationships, don't ask for things, unless the time is right. Just, I go around, I travel, I hang out with people, and, if people in the business like you and you do a good job, they're going to call you. They always do. Yep. I might not hear from somebody for 3 years, and then I'll get a call and be like, oh, so-and-so's got a new release coming out. You want on the project? It's like, of course, I'd love to. It's just being good to people and staying around good people. And, like nobody likes a needy friend,
I like everything you said there. And, I imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I imagine if you're anything like me, you played in a band and you were an active band, and when you, just by the act of doing that, you're meeting other bands, and you're meeting other managers, and you're meeting booking agents, and you're meeting publicists, and you're meeting promoters, and it kind of snowballs, doesn't it? Start small, and then your network slowly gets bigger and bigger until you one day, you connect with someone who's got connections to someone else, and that's how it kind of works in my experience.
100%. I started with no connections in the industry, not knowing anybody. And just like you meet one friend, and you just, if you're in a band and you're, playing in one town and you want to get to the other town, like find the best band in that town, and hopefully you're talented, and that talent, you can cross back and forth it, and they might make an advance and you might make an advance, and you get to meet their, friendager, who is their manager, who knows a couple more people, and you hang out and you just communicate. And with social media and the ability to engage with such a large audience of friends nowadays is something that I didn't have. Even, I'm watching this stuff going on in Houston with like social media, and Katrina 12 years ago, we didn't have, Twitter, we didn't have Facebook. Like it's so much easier to communicate and engage with people. And being, in different, just playing in bands and being on tour, and that camaraderie that you don't, that's something. It's like it's a life lesson. And going out and booking shows and playing, and I did that for years back when, and it's all about the hustle.
It is, and I totally agree. And thanks again for sharing that. All right, let's go back to your company, Wonderful Union. I read that you started the company on gut instinct. I just wanted you to just expand a little bit on that, on the importance of you felt in your bones that this was something to give a shot at.
Yeah, myself and my business partners, like I was saying earlier, we're doing all these websites, and we saw an opportunity where we had one company that would hire us for these projects. and they were building fan clubs, and they would pay us a lot of money. And we're like, what's going on here? Like, how did this happen? And digging into the business, and that part of it was a no-brainer. But going to the shows and seeing these fans, like I was saying with the VIP component, crying and fainting and passing out and all this kind of stuff, like it was like, whoa, there's a value to this, and just being able to, I've never taken at this point any funding, or we were completely bootstrapped, and just like music is a passion that is, it's not like, I don't know, everything's a passion to somebody, but it was one of those things where it just felt right. And there was an opportunity where, fans want to interact with each other. They want to brag. Why do they go to concerts? They all want to experience something. And that was just really like the engagement component of our platform. And, the commerce and all that stuff kind of just came with it naturally, because we have to make money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
Because we're not, well, surprise. I mean, a lot of companies out there have an idea and they get a bunch of funding and it doesn't make money. But we decided to sell things and, take percentages and do all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was definitely a gut instinct. And, it's funny, between Wonderful Union and we also had a company that we spun off of Wonderful Union about a year ago called Q App. It was a ticketing company where we were asked to come in and do tickets for one of our friends' festivals, who became a partner, and that turned into doing clubs. And then this ticketing company, Eventbrite,
yep,
which is if you're familiar with them, they actually acquired us last year.
Yep. And
that was one of those things where we knew that it was like a venue management tool, and that also sold tickets. And we knew that there was an opportunity there, but we didn't. It's a very competitive marketplace because we were so far along. The market was already so far along. There's so many competitors in the space that we've come into and we've been into now for almost a dozen years. There was no competition, and we've been able to, I think that's allowed us to be stable and continue to grow and continue to open in new countries. And, now we have our main office in California. We have a joint venture in Japan. We have an office in Toronto, Canada. We have an office in Hamburg, Germany, and we're able to continue to grow the business. I think, I think it's been pretty phenomenal, but definitely started with a gut. Mm-hmm. And even more detailed, started on what we used to call Beer Friday. We used to sit around on Fridays and drink beer and just come up with ideas on what this is. And it's crazy now, so many years later, that it's a business. And the people that were in those meetings, I still talk to them about it. It's like, it worked.
Well, that's fantastic. I am curious, Eddie, how did you convince, promoters and managers and even the venues to sort of wrangle that asset from them, if you like? How did you convince them? Because I imagine if I went to a manager and said, hey, I want to organise this for you, he'd say, well, piss off, I'll do it myself. Why do I need you? How did you get around that?
A lot, it's not scalable for one artist. So for a manager to come and say, hey, we're going to do this for a whole tour, and we're going to take all the tickets, we're going to build the packages, we're going to deal with the customer support. That's too much. The way that managers see my company is like a plugin it's like a back office plugin for their management. Part of it is having the resume.
Mm-hmm.
So
sure.
There are new companies that pop up all the time, but they can't get.
They can't say.
It's hard for them to get.
They can't say I did the Backstreet Boys.
No, nobody else can say that. But and also going back to what I was saying earlier about that hustle and the relationships and the communication. Mm-hmm. You can ask anybody in the business, and we have a good reputation. And the key holders that the agents, the managers, and the promoters all know me.
Yep.
I have deals with all the big promoters and the big agencies and all the big management companies. It's really hard to get that.
Sure.
It's taken years and years and years. And, I think that having the trust and knowing that, big conglomerate booking agency A is going to say, yeah, we trust Eddie and his team. We've worked with them 100 times. They always do a great job. The fans are happy and they pay. And those are the things where managers are going to be like, okay, if you went and started a new company, it's like you have to prove that track record. You have to have the infrastructure. We have, 50 ish employees, operating. So it's a machine at this point that is really hard to replicate. And I do see it all the time. I see companies popping up, and it costs a lot of money to hire 45, 50 people. The office space, the infrastructure, the advancement on all the goods, the travel. A lot of these tours, we don't see the money till the shows that actually happen. So it's a lot of investment in infrastructure that managers don't. If you don't have it, it's not something you can just, you could create it overnight, but I've seen companies come through and burn $20-30 million, and it's not, they get caught up in doing some Facebook thing, or they're doing this, or their widget to buy, or there's been several companies over the years that, without saying any names, that have come and gone. I guess I can say the names because they're gone, but I'm not going to.
Sure.
But it's interesting. There's been, it's definitely, it's a hard space, and there's not very many players. There's some really great companies out there that we compete against. And there's also some companies out there that, undermine the market and don't really, they mess with the value of what everybody else is doing. So, it's a small, I think on average of 100% of the music market, we're probably looking at a good 5% for the super fans, with that 5%, maybe 1 to 1.5 being, the wealthy fans. And then the rest, the 3.5 to 4% being super core fans.
And by
still a big.
And you're with your definition of super fans, they're those fans that are prepared to go above and beyond because of that obsession they have for the artist. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, they're the ones who are going to join the fan club to get the pre-sale tickets. They're the ones who are going to buy the ticket bundles and buy the meet and greets and do the after parties and all that kind of stuff that is more aggressive than, I like Steely Dan, I'll go see them.
Yep, gotcha. Yep.
I'm cool with just that,
Yeah. Well, I understand it well from many years ago because I was in the KISS Army. I remember I wanted to pay to get extra.
You're not in it anymore?
No.
Army?
I haven't been in the KISS Army for many, many years, but back in the 80s I certainly was, and people used to say, "What are you doing, man?" And I'd say, "Well, look what I get. I get all this extra stuff that you can't access, man, because I'm in their tribe, you know what I mean?" So I understand totally where you're coming from.
I've pitched for that a couple of times. I'd love to work with the KISS Army, just putting that out there.
Well, do you know Gene?
I know the team over there.
Yeah.
Hey guys, what's up? Shout out to KISS.
So Eddie, I imagine, and feel free if you don't want to talk about this, but the way your business model works is that you're putting all this together and then you're negotiating a cut of the back end. That's how you stay profitable and run a successful business. Yeah,
there's some things that we do on flat fee, like a website or other base services, like here, this is what you need, boom. And then there's other things that we put some skin in the game as well, where it's, percentage based, whether that's merchandise or VIPs or, it's either or depending on, but most of the time it's all percentage based. And, it lights a fire under us to drive it to be as successful as possible.
Totally.
The more we can sell, the more we can push, the more we can get creative, the better. If somebody just paid us a flat fee for everybody, be like, all right, where's my check? On to the next one. That's not, whether it's the warehouse, I want to sell that. I want to have an empty warehouse every night, or whether it's a tour, I want to have a 100% sell through every day, every show for, what we're selling. And the more we're incentivized to achieve that, the better it is for the artist and the manager.
Sure. Would you say you're a good negotiator, Eddie? Excuse me?
Yeah, for the most part. It comes down to, again, going back to talking about the relationships. There are people who I absolutely love to work with, and they know that. And there are people who can they require a higher percentage.
Yep.
That's in any business. So that's any business. There's definitely, I think that at the end of the day, between myself and I have some pretty amazing attorneys that work with me, we can negotiate something that at least is favorable and makes it worth all of our time.
Cool. Eddie, have you done anything down in Australia, or do you intend to in the future? What's your plans for our territory? Have you thought about us?
Yeah, of course I have. Especially when I think about you all the time when I'm selling stuff and people order on the internet and the shipping fees are very expensive.
Sure.
Yeah, I've worked with What's his name? Jadon. Do you know Jadon?
Jadon Comerford, Unified.
Manages. Yeah, Unified. So
Yep.
I've done some stuff with them.
Mm-hmm.
He has helped me out several times down there where it's like we have a small tour.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, hey, I need some merch. I need rep. And so he and I have the same attorney here in the United States. And he has been that whole camp over there has been super, super helpful. They're all the way down in Melbourne. But I've done some work. And it's a difficult market in the sense of I feel, and you can correct me, and maybe there's some education from you, where I've always been told that in the Australian market, if you have a local artist, to create these, you obviously can create a website, you can create a fan club to an extent, but like VIP packages, it's you're too good, you're going to charge me. You live here, you're an Australian, like, why would I, and people are a little more aggressive on this. But if you have like you have an artist like a Matchbox 20 or Drake or someone coming down through that's an international artist, people seem more open to taking part in these experiences. And I'm still learning the market, which is it's an amazing place. And I've been down there a couple of times, but I don't fully know it. And it's a small market. What do you have? 10 markets, 8 cities? That would be
realistically probably only 4, the 4 big cities, and maybe 5. We've got 7 capitals here, but a lot of the promoters miss some of the smaller cities because the population's not there. But going back to what you were saying, you're right. I think it is quite a fragmented market. Some of the more commercial acts could do that. Certainly, a local band wouldn't be able to do that. I spoke with you were familiar with Parkway Drive?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I spoke to Graham Nixon, their manager, about this exact topic, and he said, well, yeah, we wouldn't do meet and greets because we just think it's a bit lame. It's not our sort of style and it's not our ethic. And I think also for those guys being so successful, they don't need to do it either. But so I think it would depend on which artist you're speaking with and what type of management they have. Someone like Graham, who's very sort of DIY punk ethic, not so interested in money necessarily, as opposed to another type of manager that's really trying to grow the business and think of monetization possibilities and opportunities. So yeah, definitely very interesting.
Yeah, there's more than the meet and greet. A lot of times we'll do like a ticket bundle, you get a front row ticket and some merchandise and so on and so forth. But it's definitely when we come down with like an American or a European artist, we'll push for that, and having a couple of people in the market that can help us out. And I have people like the guys in Melbourne that help me out in a lot of different territories and help educate. Because even with Europe, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, where we're set up, is a very physical market, and it's very they have artists that tour over there that will sell out arenas multiple nights. But you go to Sweden and it's this 8% physical market versus a 75% physical market just down across the border in Germany. So each territory is so unique and so different. But Australia is definitely I'm still learning. But
Australians are probably a bit I'd say this is a generalization, but we're probably a bit more cynical too than Americans when it comes to things like this. We're still sort of learning about these monetization strategies, and in my experience, most of us who are trying to do it are copying the Americans who are forging this way. But anyway, you might get some kickback, and I've experienced it, but that's just if it's like you were talking about before, you can offer it. If you're not interested, you don't buy it. There'll be people out there, and the market will soon tell you whether or not it's a good value proposition.
Yeah, and in other markets like Japan, we've seen it. It just blows out. People are like, "Whoa!" I mean, can we add more? Like everybody wants it, So it really comes down to the territory and culturally, and what's acceptable, and
Yep, sure. So Eddie, you've got all these amazing bands we've been talking about, sort of titans of the music industry. What if there's a small manager or a small agent listening to this, and maybe they're playing and they're only pulling a couple of hundred people? Is your company for them, or do we have to sort of wait for you to get bigger, or how does it work? Because I read that you service everybody.
Yeah, 100%. And the smaller acts that are developing and on their way up, that's it's basic A&R. We have to be there from the beginning. And then, that comes into even going back to what we were saying earlier about the relationships, about the, working together. We have many artists that we work with, like G-Eazy would be one, or American hip hop artist who, we started with him and he was doing 200 seats a night. Now he's doing 20,000, and we still have the connection. We're still able to do everything that he needs. And So, you know, if the artist is right and the manager's cool and everything like makes sense, it's like we are definitely, that's, you know, we have to continue. There's always going to be the next new thing. And if we don't take chances on it, you know, it's you know, who somebody else will.
Yeah, sure.
So there's definitely like, you know, we talk to people all the time, and, you know, budgets, expectations, process, all of it depends on what we're doing. So if you have an artist who's doing, you know, 400 people a night, we can set up a ticketing site. We can help, you know, sell your packages, handle your customer support. You know, maybe the tour manager out there will maybe be the one doing the meet and greet, you know, cut down on all the costs and be able to self-serve it, send out a box to the tour that has a camera, has all the items that you need to maintain and run this. Because you know, a tour manager in a, you know, 300 to 500 seat room is going to have a little bit more time than a stadium tour manager. So yeah, it just scales up and down on based on what you need.
Cool. So you mentioned you do play a kind of A&R role. Anyone listening to this that wanted to get in touch with you, is it similar to approaching anyone who's a sort of a gatekeeper of the business? Do I put together a great, you know, press kit and send it off to your company or to try and get into your inbox, or is that how it works, or was it more wait to get discovered by you, or what's the...
You know, it's definitely reaching out to us. So on our website at wonderfulunion.com, we have a little form under contact. I think it's down at the bottom maybe. And it goes out, and when people fill it out, it goes to myself and a couple other key people on the team. And we, you know, if it's filled out, we check it out. And like, just, you know, it comes down to where are you at? What are you doing? Who's working with you? What's the team around you? You know, do you have a, you know, ideally if they don't have a label deal, that's fine. Like what type of numbers are they pulling? What are the plans? And, you know, and that's really just it, just a conversation. That's what we do all day.
Cool.
You know, we talk with people, and, you know, I'd love to listen to new stuff too. I still love music.
That's great. That's great. Well, there you go, listeners. So I would put Eddie Meehan onto your recipients list and send him your stuff when you're ready. I'm assuming you're probably thinking, though, when you've got a good product and also when you've got a bit of momentum, when things are starting to happen for you, people are starting to show up to shows and wear your shirts and all that type of thing, would probably be the best time, I imagine, Eddie?
100%.
Yeah.
I'm also always down to have a conversation too.
Cool.
You know, just chat.
So you're one of those CEOs that's actually accessible, you know, they can get to you.
Yeah, man. It's like, you know, I blush when people call me CEO. It's like we all work together. You know, I just happen to be the boss, but I want to be available. I want to talk to people. One of my favorite things to do, as funny as it is going out to shows. And I travel a ton.
Yep.
And I love to sit there and I love to, you know, and the fans a lot of times don't know what I do or who I am. And I'll hide my past and just go talk to people and like listen to them. And whether they're a super fan or, you know, just engaging with people and seeing, I mean, you know, that's how you learn. You know, whether it's another artist who you might have a casual conversation with, or a fan who, you know, just wants to express their frustration or their excitement or whatever it happens to be. Those are the things I like to do. So yeah, I'm totally, maybe sometimes too accessible. I don't know.
Well, listeners, if you missed this and listening to this on the run, I'll put all of Eddie's company's details into the show notes of the page of musicbusinessfacts.com, and you can go and check it out. Eddie, we've been talking for 50 minutes, and I reckon I could sit down and talk to you all day. I'd love to. If you come to Australia, please let me buy you a beer and take you out to lunch, and we'll continue this conversation. But just before I wrap it up, I want to try and just squeeze a few little last things out from you. You're an expert. You're a successful businessman in the music industry. Can you just give my listeners some monetization models that come to your mind that you can help them with if they're trying to create a successful business, other than, you know, the obvious ones of, you know, creating merchandise, live performance, and maybe digital streaming, physical product? Anything else?
I mean, in the music business, it comes down to one thing. It's the song.
Yep.
It's the music. You know, I mean, it starts with that, and that's when you have that, everything else falls into place, I feel. You know, good people, good songs, and you know, as cheesy as that sounds, like that's all. You know, you see some artists and people. You know, I've got family members in bands, and you're like, oh, I don't know what this is. I can't help you. Yep. You know, if the talent's there, and it's hard to, you know, sometimes know that, but you know it. You know, and I think it always starts with a song. And if you've got the song, and the products will all fall into place, the fans, and then you have the song leads to the fans kind of dictate what type of products and what type of things they want, and every single artist is different, and the relationship with their fan is very intimate and unique. And you have to, not look at them as fans in a generalization. You have to look at it's a relationship. And knowing that relationship is going to allow you to open all those other doors on monetization.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I read you talked about the importance of brand development around the artist. Can you give any brand development quick tips for musicians?
Again, back to the song, back to the look, always having, with a brand, it's like being on point, being like, this is the look, the packaging, the branding, the logo, things that create familiarity. Look at the giant super brands like Coca-Cola and Pepsi, and not that you're a Coca-Cola or Pepsi, but you're creating something that people become familiar with when they see your name on something, when they hear your name, when they look at an album packaging, when they look at a poster, like they feel something. They there's a sense of that creativity that's going to embrace the art, the songs that you've created. And I think that all, when you look at it as like a brand, it's like looking at it like from an agency standpoint where, when you have a release in a cycle, start it over just as any big artist would. I mean, look at, we're lucky enough to work with Taylor Swift, and she's done an amazing job on this relaunch from 1989 to the Reputation cycle. And, it's completely, all started over. It's all still her, but there's a story, there's a vibe, I'm not saying create a concept album or anything, but like you just have it's a brand. You're starting a new business every time. This is a business. And, if you're in a cover band, which I've always keep saying I'm going to go play on Friday nights for beer money. But it's a business, and just embrace it like that and think of it like that.
All right. Great advice. Eddie, you studied business and journalism at the San Diego State University. My question is formal study necessary, or is the School of Hard Knocks the way to go, or a combination of both? What's your opinion there?
This is a tough question because whatever I studied in school, it doesn't come into real life for me. I just, like I was saying, my focus from media and radio and broadcasting and wanting to be into that space switched with with the discovery of the internet for me. And I feel it's important, the importance of what I got out of school and higher education was socialization. It allowed me to become a grown-up, get out of my house, to create some sort of discipline, and to also allow me to socialize with other people in the community away from home. And there were a lot of things that came into place with it, but the actual arithmetic and schooling and education, I don't feel, for me, life is completely different. Like computers and cell phones, like things are, it's a hard thing for me to answer because I didn't have any of those things. But I feel like it's important in some areas, but I don't feel like unless you're a doctor or a lawyer or something like that, where it's obviously very important for me. In the music business, it's all about the relationships and the hustle and failure is not an option. You can't back out of it. It's very and I don't know where you would learn this. I don't know. It's there's music schools where Berkeley's a great school, but in Belmont and Nashville is a great school. But there's some things you just, it's just innate.
Sure. Look, I love what you said there, that the music business is all about relationships and failure is not an option. I mean, that's, I think, testament to everybody that's been successful at anything. So, and the last one I got for you, Eddie, is about your vision of the future of the music industry. You're talking a couple of times about this is the Wild West still. Where do you think it's headed? What's coming to mind?
That's a good question. I think in our space, the same way Amazon, it's all about removing friction. It's all about removing things that create issues in this space. And I think for me, I think technology is going to become a bigger play. I think discovery is really hard. I think that there's so many different outlets Whether it's streaming services or radio stations, or, there's a billion different websites and areas where people can discover it. But I think centralization of artist properties, I think record labels are slowly starting to learn that they're merging into different business structures where it's not, obviously it's not about printed CDs anymore, and it's about recording albums, but they're turning into, again, brand management agencies, marketing agencies who are becoming, not so focused on competing with the past and being what was, but focusing on what's to come. I think, a unified platform, I think an area where artists are more engaged. And I think the direct consumer area, it's two parts. There's one on the larger artists that can do that, but there still needs to be a focus on back to the A&R and artist cultivation. Because without that, the older artists are all going to die off, and we're going to be stuck with a bunch of nothing,
Yep.
Who's the next U2? Who's the next superstar? What Coldplay? They still came out in the album age, So like, I think to answer your question, those are more concerns than where it's going.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, I think the fan engagement, I think artists being able to embrace it more and create their own story. And you're seeing it you're already seeing it with the big artists. The Metallica's owning their own catalog, running their own business. And,
Yep.
And you're seeing it with the younger artists like Chance the Rappers and whatnot, coming up and without a record deal and just doing it themselves. And so I think that's where it's going to go, which is good. And I really think that hopefully it always goes back to the song. Hopefully, we go in and out of terrible music phases in our life, since there have been times where it's like, what is this garbage? Other times like, wow, this is amazing. And hopefully we're about to, go into the, wow, that's amazing phase. And I think that will also help embrace change in the music business, because the music is good. People want it. And that's where it gets creative.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, mate. Great response. I really appreciate that. And I'd add that whilst all this technology is amazing and it's heading where we don't even really know, currently you still can't download that touch and that feel and that smell of that fan engagement, which is going to keep you in a successful business, correct?
Yeah. There's no, I don't know. I think that VR is going to start. I do think people being at home and getting a subscription to a VR, for artist A, and being able to buy the whole show for $400 and sitting there and watching the whole show and feeling like you're there, is going to be a semi-replacement. I think that real life experience, and at this point, everything can be replaced, but at this point, no.
Yeah.
And I think it's great to be able to watch shows from home and embrace, but it's, at this point, for the next few years, we're okay, I think.
Yeah. If you're a Star Trek fan, you'd know of the holodeck, and I think that's still a good, God knows, 50 years away, maybe 100 years. So you can't download the physical experience of being there. Listen, Eddie Meehan from Wonderful Union, it's really been awesome to speak with you. I've honestly found it really inspiring, and thanks so much for your time. I imagine you're a really busy guy, and I appreciate you talking the last hour of your life with me and giving such value to my listeners. It's been awesome, mate.
I appreciate the time, and I'll definitely take you up for that beer when I come down to Brisbane.
Cool, mate. Thanks very much.
Well, there you go, music business practitioners. New name, I think I'm going to call you guys. Eddie Union, what a really cool guy, and what a cool story, and what a cool business. Imagine just hanging out with rock stars and having a blast all the time and making a shit ton of cash. Sounds amazing, doesn't it? I'm sure it's not always like that, but I really did, like I said, found my conversation with Eddie to be incredibly inspiring, and I hope you do too. If you can be bothered, why not let me know what you thought of the interview? Head over to facebook.com/musicbusinessfacts and tell me what you liked and tell me what you learned. Or if you didn't like it, if you didn't learn anything, feel free to head over there and tell me about that as well. And how about those Backstreet Boys superfans, hey? Just amazing. 75K, 100K to spend time with those guys. Amazing. Offering people who are prepared to pay guys a premium experience. There's some real knowledge in that, some real powerful knowledge. Don't forget, over at my show notes page, there's all the links and about everything we talked about as well. And as I mentioned at the start of the show, Eddie's free report is waiting for you as well on his top 10 tips for success in the music business. And also, if you've got any ideas for the show yourself, people, any pain points for your business or anything that you're trying to do and succeed in the industry that you're struggling with, I'd love to hear from you, and I'd love to do a show or a presentation on it. So if there's anything you'd like to cover, please let me know, as I love hearing from you guys, and I really want to start doing some more online lectures and things like that to help you people achieve the goals that you're trying to reach. So yeah, feel free to hit me up. Also, this show is and always will remain free. People often ask me, why don't I start a Patreon page or something like that? I guess the answer to that is I've just decided not to. I don't think that there's probably going to be enough support for that. But occasionally I do get asked from people, how can they help with the show? So I've set up a PayPal Me account. And for anyone that's doing anything creative, I also, encourage you to go and check out PayPal Me. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are liking the show, if you're liking the content and you would like to financially contribute to me to help present what I do and to bring you more episodes, my link there is paypal.me/musicbusinessfacts. All right, guys, well, I've just got back from Big Sound, and I've got some really amazing guests coming up in the next few weeks. Very exciting times ahead. So keep an ear out for that. If you like the show, please hit the share button. Please tell your friends. Let anyone know about the show who you think that might be able to help. And before I go, as usual, I'll leave you with a really great and hopefully inspiring quote. And this one's from a guy called Walter Payton. And Walter Payton said, "When you're good at something, you'll tell everyone. When you're great at something, they'll tell you." I really like that one. Anyhow, guys, until the next episode, this is Rodney Holder, feeling a bit fluey, a bit colder. I feel like I can speak a bit deeper today. Anyhow, guys, I hope you enjoyed the show, and I will see you or talk to you very, very soon. This is Rodney Holder signing off from Music Business Facts.
You've been listening to the Music Business Facts podcast. For more essential music business tips and information, visit musicbusinessfacts.com.